I had to go leave and do a job, and I'm back now, and I've got more information. I went and looked at the manual again to refresh my memory. I do remember distinctly that the manual said to remove the head, that you have to remove this right here. Now, in one part of the manual, they refer to this as the head tilt crank pin, I think is what they call it. And then in the later part of the manual, they actually called it something else. But in both cases, they definitely meant this needs to be removed. My problem is, they just say to remove it, they don't say how to remove it. And remember, I was talking about how that if I just turn this, all that's going to happen is the whole head's going to tilt. So this doesn't unscrew. So, luckily, Wells Index, the manufacturer of this mill, is still alive and well in Michigan. Now, if you look at the old manuals and stuff like that, the phone number that's on there doesn't work. Because it said, the old manual said that they were located in Three Rivers, Michigan, and apparently they relocated over the years, and I forgot what the town is, but I was able to do a Google search and find the phone number for them. I gave them a call today. Very pleasant lady answered the phone. I explained what I needed. She transferred me to a very friendly gentleman. Explained to him I've got an older 847 mill. I'm trying to take the head off. I'm having all kinds of trouble, and I've got an older manual, but I'm not quite sure I'm doing it right. He said, well, let me just tell you how to do it. It's real simple. Of course, he said, got to make sure I'm supporting it from overhead, and that I've got to take this pin out. And he said, the worm gear underneath there, when I take this pin out, will drop out. And he said, if I look up underneath here, he said halfway between here and the worm gear, right about here, there should be an Allen screw that I have to remove, which will allow me to pull this pin out. Once I pull this pin out, this worm gear will be able to drop out. At that point, this whole head, if these bolts are loose, could swing, fall down. So you've got to make sure this is supported and you're ready to go. Then take these nuts all the way off, and this whole head should be able to be pulled free from the machine. So I'm going to give you a shot of that. So this is a view looking up underneath the machine. This is the opening right here that the worm gear is right here. I've got my finger on it. I don't know if that's coming out in the video because the light's not so great. This right here is what you turn to tilt the head. And if you look right here, there's a hole. There's a hole, and in that recessed hole should be the Allen screw that I've got to take out, or at least loosen. Well, my first thought was to run the sling through this opening here and across throughout this opening here, and just loop it through here. But then I was worried about it pushing on the upper part of the sheath. So then I actually got the strap to go on top of the sheath so that it would not be putting any force on the sheath pulley, and it would just be pulling up on this, and I was going to lift it that way. And that seemed like a really good central point to hook onto, and it would be balanced really well, and I liked that, except for one thing. Now, I wasn't really worried about this housing, because this is not your run-of-the-mill belt housing. This isn't sheet metal. This is heavy, you know, it's a heavy casting. My fear, and it may have been unwarranted, I don't know, but my fear was, what holds this whole unit onto the rest of this is just these small Allen screws. Now there's quite a few of them, but my lifting, the strength, the weight of all of this would be put on the shear strength of these little screws. I mean, these are really small Allen screws. So I don't think that would be a good idea. So I decided to nix that idea. And now I've got the strap cinched up around the main body here, which is bolted to this with some big bolts. So I feel much more confident in this setup. as long as it doesn't slip, which I don't think it's going to, because if I keep it cinched this way, this is a smaller diameter than this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the loader and put some tension on it. I'm glad that I left the tram loose so I can swing it. That way I can get the alignment just right. Just removing this little oiler cup here because the strap's kind of close to it. If the strap slips, it might end up bending this or even snapping it off. There's the pin. It's a keyed shaft. It's supposed to allow this worm gear to just drop out. There it is. So right now this whole thing is loose. Alright, the gear doesn't look damaged at all, but it's got a lot of chips and grease stuck in it. So I could see why that might make it a little difficult. Put a little more tension on here. Just occurred to me that if I'm wrong about how the weight is distributed on this, I think the majority of the weight is here. So I think when this comes off, it should be okay. But if it's top heavy, which I don't think it is, but if it's top heavy, when this comes away, this whole thing could flip down like this, and this casting could hit right here and smash. So I'm going to put something on here. I'm just going to use this ratchet strap. I know this is only a ratchet strap, not made to take a lot of weight. But keep in mind, I'm only using that to keep this from wanting to flip over if this is heavier than this, which I'm betting it's not, because this looks like pretty solid steel in here with this bracket, whereas this is a casting and a casting. Of course, there's the sheave pulley and the shaft in there, but then down here you get the quill. So I think we're okay. Making me nervous. I'm thinking I'm going to put another chain on there. Alright, that other chain is slack right now. That's really just a little added insurance policy. I was actually looking to see if I could hook it on top of the loader somewhere, but couldn't find anything. Not long enough to go all the way to the back to one of the arms. So my weak point is where that ring is welded to the loader. As long as that weld doesn't give away, should be okay. So let's see. Chips in there.
Just take a look at the back here. This is the where the worm gear engages to do the whole tilt, head tilt thing. And you can see this has got all shavings in it, and there's a big pile of them there that fell out from one of these captive areas here. And so those shavings there were in the track that these captive bolts actually ride in. So you can imagine that's probably not the here's some big chips down in the bottom here, you can see them. Not going to be the ideal situation for having this work smoothly. Try and move the milling machine up closer to the house before I take the table and the knee off and everything else that I'm going to try and take apart before I get it down the basement. And wife's out of town, so I don't have to worry about it sitting in the backyard because I know I'm not going to get it apart today. It's already getting kind of late. It's I forgot what date it is. It's October, I think it's October 20th today, and it turned cold real suddenly. So we had some really nice mild weather the past couple of days, and now all of a sudden today clouds moved in, sun went away, and it turned cold. So I really got to step up my efforts to get this thing apart and get it down in the basement. So I got the sling around the barrel here with the catch on this part. But what I noticed is that when I try and pick it up, because the sling is on this side, what happens is the whole thing kind of tilts this way. So what I'm hoping is, if I swing, get the ram all the way extended out that way, if I move the ram the right way, I might be able to counteract that weight change and keep it more level. So I got the wrench to tighten these as I need. Let me get the loader over here and hook it up. That was the neighbor's kid. Alright, here goes nothing. Alright, so I moved the saddle in closer to the column. I push that center of gravity closer to the middle. And I swung the sling around, so now I'll be picking up to the right about here. Oh, it's okay. Okay, that's going to be all I'm going to do on that today. I'm going to just tarp it, and then this week I'll start working on taking the table and probably the knee off, and maybe the ram, although I'm worried about if the ram's not on there. I'm worried about the sling being able to slip off when I'm lowering it down the basement stairs. So I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.